Newsmax TV coverage of the South Carolina primary continues on this Saturday night, where Donald Trump has been projected the winner of the Palmetto State GOP primary. Trump currently atop in a safe location there with 34% of the vote. And again, Donald Trump projected the winner. Alongside me here on the anchor desk, Newsmax TV political analyst Dick Morris. Another decisive win for Donald Trump, but a real battle for second place in South Carolina.
Yeah, I mean, everybody's really fighting not for second place because, you know, that's a matter of a few delegates one way or the other. What they're fighting for is, can they stop it from being a three-way race going into Super Tuesday? And I think the answer to that pretty clearly now is no, they can't. That Rubio and Cruz, whoever is second, are going to be so close that it will be a three-way contest, which will benefit Trump enormously. The odds of Trump winning this nomination probably just doubled tonight, not because he won South Carolina, but because Rubio and Cruz are within a point of each other. And even if they emerge 2 or 3 points apart, that's not enough separation. So I believe there's going to be a very, very serious effort here on Trump's part to keep it as a three-way race. And we know he can win a plurality. Trump can win a third of the vote. He can't win 51, but he can win a third. And as long as it's a three-way race, a third is basically enough to win.
One other note, since we're in the second hour of our coverage, and we began with the verdict already in from the Democratic caucuses in Nevada, a couple of points you wanted to reiterate about that.
Very important thing happened in Nevada tonight. The unimportant thing was that Hillary won, because there were just 19 delegates or something at stake there. But what was critically important is that Hillary lost the white vote by 1 point, lost the Hispanic vote by 7 points, and carried the black vote by over 50 points, and that's what propelled her to victory. 9% of Nevada was, 13% of the vote was black, 19% was Latino. But the point is that everybody had been wondering, at least I'd been wondering, we know that Hillary can carry blacks. We know that they will vote for her overwhelmingly. That's why she's going to win South Carolina overwhelmingly on Tuesday. But can she carry that over to winning Latinos? And given the preponderance of Latinos in Texas and in Florida and in California, that is a crucial thing. 40% of the vote in California is Latino in a Democratic primary. Same in Texas. Florida, a third. And if she can't win Latinos against Sanders, she's not going to win those states. And here you have Sanders beating her by 7 points in Nevada among Latinos, even as blacks go overwhelmingly for Hillary as opposed to Sanders. And when we fast forward to the general election, if she is opposing a candidate named Cruz or Rubio and not able to win Latino votes, that means that she could really get killed among Latinos. And despite whether the immigration debate goes one way or the other, she would not be strong. She would not win Latinos by the kind of margin a Democrat needs.
Fair point. We appreciate that, Dick. We would be remiss if we did not add to the conversation. Let's do so. Rejoining us via Skype from Northern Virginia, presidential historian and Reagan biographer Craig Shirley. Also via Skype, I'm not sure if she's in Connecticut or New York tonight, but wherever she is, we always welcome her presence. The former Lieutenant Governor of New York, Betsy McCaughey, and again via phone from L.A., political commentator Michael Reagan. Thanks to all three of you. Betsy, our first chance to visit with you tonight. Your take on Trump's victory in South Carolina, Hillary hanging on in Nevada, and what it portends for the immediate future.
Well, in terms of the Trump victory, it's no surprise that he is winning by a huge double-digit margin in South Carolina. He constantly says, China is whipping us in trade. We are losing our shirts to China. And the fact is, South Carolina has suffered tremendously under the free trade regime. They have lost 50,000 textile and other low-skilled manufacturing jobs. And people in South Carolina are really suffering because of the flight of manufacturing overseas. And that's a very big issue for Donald Trump. You know, all the intellectuals talk about Adam Smith and the invisible hand, but if you've lost your factory job, you don't believe in Adam Smith or the invisible hand, and you sure don't agree with the Wall Street Journal editorial pages.
And let's talk more about that, Craig. Shirley, the whole notion that for years the Republican Party, in terms of leadership, has been pro-free trade. Pat Buchanan, over 20 years ago, broke with that in New Hampshire, made a big impact. But now the pendulum has really swung among the base voters, especially with the influx of really unskilled labor in terms of illegals coming into the country. Has trade morphed from free trade to fair trade in the Republican Party?
Well, don't forget is that both Smoot and Hawley were both Republicans who passed the now notorious Smoot-Hawley bill, which erected high trade barriers back in the late 1920s. So the Republican Party has swung back and forth, as has on many issues, on war and peace and on federalism versus big government republicanism. There's no doubt that the Republican Party is going through yet another third upheaval in our lifetime. The first one was in '64, the second was in 1980, and now we're witnessing again the Republican Party's search for identity. It really is a house divided against itself, because the elites and the establishment have nothing in common with the Tea Party, although Donald Trump kind of bridges the gap completely, but probably more so than anybody else right now.
Let me turn to you, Michael Reagan, as you are watching this, and our political historian Craig Shirley talked about what your dad was able to do in terms of a Republican realignment in 1980. Apparently one again is underway. If you were to prepare a checklist of priorities, whomever is the nominee, to truly, quote, make America great again, what type of advice would you give that nominee, Michael Reagan?
Well, I would hope that the nominee had been a conservative for a very long period of time, not just during the campaign for the presidency of the United States of America. That's one of the things I would hope for. But if I can go back for a minute and even talk to Dick about this, and I'll bring it up, I think tonight is very important for Ted Cruz, because there's no evangelical state now after South Carolina. And if Marco Rubio is able to pick up a second-place finish and beat back Ted Cruz here, it may very well open the door for a John Kasich to come in and be that third spot, because Ted Cruz may not have any place else to go after today.
Michael, you have Oklahoma, you have Texas, you have Alabama, you have Georgia, all voting on Kentucky, Tennessee, Arkansas, all voting on Super Tuesday. Those are pretty, on the Republican primary, are pretty evangelical. There is a point I just would like to make here. When you look at this polling, I'll pull up the numbers here, but when you look at the exit polling, Rubio won convincingly against Cruz. I'm just speaking the two of them. Disregard Trump. Rubio decisively beat Cruz among moderates and liberals. And the more conservative you got, the more likely you were to vote for Cruz. Among the 40% of the electorate that described themselves as very conservative, Cruz got 2-1 over Rubio. The other thing that is fascinating is that when you ask voters when they made up their mind, the Trump voters made up their mind way before the election. Very few of the people who made up their mind in the last week voted for Trump. On the other hand, more than half of the people that voted for Cruz or Rubio made up their mind in the last week, and about evenly so in terms of their draw. So in a sense, you have the pre-existing condition, to use a phrase, was to vote for Trump. And then the campaign was between Rubio and Cruz and was essentially a draw.
And since you brought up pre-existing condition, let us turn to our health policy expert, who also has done pretty well politically, former New York Lieutenant Governor Betsy McCaughey. So this battle back and forth, Cruz and Rubio, the battle for second place tonight. Cruz back up right now. You don't have a crystal ball there. It's going to be interesting to watch as this comes down. But Dick was...
Let me just make a couple of
Go
comments
ahead.
about Cruz. One is that the unexpected death of Justice Scalia has added to Cruz's relevance, and I predict that in the days ahead, he's going to be underscoring his commitment to the Constitution to protecting the Constitution, to constitutionalism, to the appointment of future Supreme Court justices. That really plays into Ted Cruz's hand a lot.
And as you mentioned, what may play into the hand of Ted Cruz, let us go now to South Carolina as we thank you, Betsy McCaughey and Steve Malzberg and Michael Reagan.